The vastness of space was silent, endless, and cold. Captain Elias Carter sat in the command chair of the Star Hunter, his fingers tapping lightly on the armrest. They had been traveling through an unexplored sector of space for days, hoping to find something valuable, perhaps a lost supply ship, a derelict station, or even alien ruins. Instead, they found something impossible. "Captain, you need to see this," Lieutenant Mara Voss called from the scanner station. Her voice held a sharp edge of disbelief. Elias stood up and walked over. "What is it?" Mara pointed at the screen. "There's something in that nebula, big, and it's not natural." Elias narrowed his eyes at the readings. A massive structure lay hidden within the thick, swirling gases of the nebula. It had no energy signature, no distress signals, nothing to suggest it was active. But its shape, it was unmistakable. "A warship," Elias muttered. The crew gathered around the screen, whispering among themselves. The shape was sleek, angular, and monstrous in size, far larger than any known human battleship. "But that's impossible," Chief Engineer Doran said. "No ship that size should be able to move without collapsing under its own weight. And look at the metal composition. This thing isn't built from anything we've ever seen before." Elias took a deep breath. Every instinct told him to turn back, but curiosity burned inside him. "Prepare a landing team. We're going in." Boarding the ghost ship, the Star Hunter maneuvered carefully through the nebula, its hull groaning under the pressure of the dense gas clouds. As they neared the warship, its sheer scale became overwhelming. It was ancient, its surface covered in deep scars and fractures. The strange black metal shimmered faintly under the dim nebula light. A docking port was wide open, as if waiting for them. "This feels like a trap," Mara whispered as they suited up. Elias ignored her hesitation. "Stay alert. We don't leave until we understand what this thing is." As the team stepped onto the alien ship, a strange silence engulfed them. Their boots echoed against the metal floors. The air was thin but breathable, and the ship's interior looked oddly preserved, too clean for something abandoned. Then, suddenly, a sound. A deep, distant hum vibrated through the walls. It was slow and rhythmic, like the ship was breathing. "Did anyone else hear that?" Doran asked, his hand tightening around his scanner. Mara nodded. "Yeah, and I don't like it." The deeper they went, the more unnatural everything seemed. There were no control panels, no obvious crew quarters, just massive corridors leading to unknown destinations. The walls pulsed faintly, as if the ship itself was alive. Then they found the bridge. The room was vast, lined with smooth, glowing surfaces. A massive throne-like chair sat at the center, surrounded by dark screens. Elias approached cautiously, his fingers brushing against the strange material. At that moment, the ship reacted. A sudden surge of energy ran through the walls. Lights flared to life, systems activated, and symbols in an unknown language scrolled across the displays. "Captain," Mara shouted. "Something's happening." Elias stepped back as a holographic figure appeared before them, a humanoid shape, its face obscured by static. A voice, distorted and ancient, echoed through the room. "You should not be here." The crew froze. The warship was not abandoned. It had been waiting, and now it was awake. The holographic figure flickered, static distorting its features. Its voice, deep and ancient, echoed through the massive bridge. "You should not be here." Captain Elias Carter clenched his fists, forcing himself to remain calm. His crew stood frozen, their eyes locked on the eerie projection. "Who are you?" Elias asked, his voice steady. The figure twitched before responding. "I am the last remnant of the architects. This vessel must not be awakened." Mara Voss exchanged a nervous glance with Chief Engineer Doran. "Too late for that," she muttered. The ship trembled slightly, as if reacting to their presence. Strange symbols flickered across the dark screens, shifting like they were alive. The hum in the walls grew louder. Why was it left here? Elias pressed. Who were the architects? The hologram's form wavered. They were the masters of creation and destruction. This warship is their last mistake. Doran took a step forward, scanning the consoles. Captain, these readings. This ship is using technology beyond anything in our database. Its material isn't just strong, it's adapting. Almost like it's alive. Elias felt a chill creep up his spine. Then we need to be careful. The ship clearly wasn't just a relic. It had been designed for something greater, something dangerous. But before they could decide their next move, alarms blared through the alien vessel. A new voice, mechanical and urgent, boomed through the ship. Foreign entities detected. Defense mode initializing. Mara's eyes widened. That doesn't sound good. The holographic figure turned toward them, its flickering face unreadable. You should leave, before it is too late. Awakening the beast. A deep, guttural vibration rippled through the ship. The walls pulsed with energy, and the dim lights turned a violent shade of red. Doran's scanner beeped wildly. Captain, the ship is waking up. Its power levels are rising. Everyone, move. Elias barked. They sprinted for the exit, but the doors slammed shut before they could escape. The ship's AI had locked them in. Containment protocol engaged, a robotic voice intoned. Crew compatibility analysis, ongoing. Compatibility. Mara panted, gripping her rifle. What does that mean? Doran's face paled as he looked at the readings. I think it's scanning us. It's checking if we're fit to be its new pilots. Elias took a sharp breath. The ship wasn't just waking up. It was choosing them. Then, without warning, the ship surged forward. From the outside, the nebula swirled violently as the massive warship roared to life. Engines that had been dormant for centuries burned with blinding energy. The impossible warship moved like a predator unleashed. Inside, the crew stumbled as the ship accelerated on its own. The controls lit up, offering no input, just pure, raw power guiding them. Then Mara's voice rang out, filled with panic. Captain, we're not alone. Elias turned to see what she meant, and his blood ran cold. On the screens, dozens of enemy ships were closing in fast. They had been detected, and now they were the ones being hunted. The alien warship roared to life, engines surging with an energy no human had ever seen before. Captain Elias Carter barely had time to process what was happening before the ship jerked violently, throwing the crew off balance. Mara Voss grabbed onto the nearest console. Captain, we're moving. Fast. Elias steadied himself, eyes locking onto the main display. Red warning symbols flickered across the screens, written in an unknown language. But one thing was clear. They were under attack. Doran's hands flew over his scanner. I count at least 20 ships inbound. They must have detected the power surge. Elias clenched his jaw. Whoever these enemies were, they weren't here for a friendly chat. And now, they were trapped inside a warship they didn't understand, flying straight toward a battle they weren't prepared for. A metallic voice echoed through the ship. Threat detected. Engaging combat mode. The walls pulsed red. The ship wanted to fight. An unstoppable force. The enemy fleet moved fast, sleek black ships cutting through the nebula like sharks in water. Their weapons powered up, bright energy signatures glowing against the dark void. A transmission crackled through the comms. A deep, guttural voice spoke in an alien language before switching to broken English. Unknown vessel, you are in restricted space. Power down and surrender immediately. Elias glared at the screen. I don't think they'll take no for an answer. Mara scoffed. We don't even know how to fly this thing, let alone fight with it. Before Elias could respond, the ship acted on its own. The control panels lit up, shifting symbols rapidly until they formed human language. A single message appeared. Do you wish to engage? Elias hesitated. The ship was asking them for permission to fight. Duran's voice was tight with tension. "Captain, I think this thing wants us to command it." Mara's fingers hovered over the console. "If we say yes, what happens?" Elias took a deep breath. Outside, the enemy ships were closing in, weapons locked. They had seconds to decide. His eyes darkened. "We fight." He pressed the glowing confirmation symbol. The ship reacted instantly. The deep hum of the warship intensified. Energy surged through its core, and the hull shimmered like a living thing. Weapons powered up, massive cannons emerging from hidden compartments, glowing with a power far beyond human technology. The enemy fleet fired first. Bright beams of plasma shot toward them, direct hits that should have torn through their shields. Instead, the warship absorbed them like harmless raindrops. Mara gasped. "It's adapting." Elias watched in awe. "No, it's learning." The ship responded with terrifying precision. In an instant, the cannons fired. Beams of pure energy lashed out, erasing 3 enemy ships in seconds. No explosions, no debris, just gone. The enemy fleet panicked, breaking formation. They weren't fighting an ordinary warship. They were facing something unstoppable. The hunters become the hunted. The remaining enemy ships scrambled, desperate to escape. Their transmissions were filled with fear. Impossible. That ship should not exist. Elias narrowed his eyes. "Oh, it exists, all right." The warship didn't let them flee. It chased them. Engines flared, propelling the massive vessel forward with terrifying speed. More weapons activated, missiles, laser turrets, and something that looked like a gravitational cannon. One by one, the enemy ships fell. The last remaining ship sent a final transmission before being obliterated. "This cannot be. Humans should not have." The architect's wrath. The transmission cut off as the final enemy vessel vanished under the ship's fury. Inside the warship, the hum quieted. The lights dimmed, returning to a calmer shade of blue. The message on the screen changed again. "Threat neutralized. Awaiting further commands." Elias let out a slow breath. "We just wiped out an entire fleet, without taking a single hit." Mara stared at the screen. "Captain, what did they mean?" The architect's wrath. Duran ran his hand through his hair. "I don't know. But whatever this ship is, it was never meant for humans." Silence fell over the bridge. They had survived the first attack. But something told Elias this was just the beginning. The warship drifted in the silence of space, its weapons cooling from the destruction it had unleashed. The enemy fleet was gone, erased, but the questions remained. Elias Carter exhaled slowly, his mind racing. This ship, this impossible machine, had just chosen them. But why? Mara Voss broke the silence. Did anyone else hear that? Her voice was tight, right before the last ship was destroyed. They called this thing the architect's wrath. Duran adjusted his scanner, his expression dark. Who were the architects? And why was this ship hidden away? A sudden pulse ran through the ship, like the vibration of a massive heartbeat. The control panels flickered, and then, without warning, the ship's eye spoke. "You are not the first to ask." Everyone froze. Elias turned toward the central console. "Who are you?" The voice responded, smooth but ancient. "I am the core intelligence. My creators were the architects. You are now the designated crew of this vessel." Mara's breath hitched. "Wait, it's recognizing us as the crew." Duran was already running calculations, but that means it was waiting for someone. Someone like us. Elias felt a chill creep down his spine. "Tell us everything. Who were the architects? Why is this ship here?" The ship hesitated. Warning. Restricted data detected. Partial information available. The bridge darkened. Then a hologram appeared, a projection of a galaxy, but not as they knew it. Dozens of systems were crossed out, marked with symbols that radiated a single, terrifying meaning. Extinct. Mara's voice was barely a whisper. What? What happened? The AI continued. The architects were the first. They shaped the stars, built wonders beyond imagination. But their greatest creation became their greatest mistake. The hologram shifted, zooming in on a massive, shadowy structure. It was not a ship, not a planet, but something else entirely. A weapon. Elias clenched his jaw. And this ship. The AI's voice grew colder. A failed attempt to stop the unstoppable. The architects disappeared. Their enemies remained. Doran swallowed hard. You're saying whatever wiped out the architects is still out there. The AI's response was chilling. Yes. A deadly choice. Silence swallowed the room. Elias exchanged glances with his crew. The architects, whoever they were, had been erased by something beyond comprehension. And this ship was their last defense. Mara spoke first. Captain, do we really want to be a part of this? Elias's mind raced. The smart move would be to leave, to take the ship and run as far as possible. But he knew the truth. If something out there was strong enough to wipe out an entire civilization, hiding wouldn't save them. Elias exhaled sharply. We're already a part of this. Haran's voice was tense. So, what do we do? Elias turned to the AI. You chose us as your crew. That means you recognize us as worthy. He took a step closer to the console. Tell me, can we fight this thing? Can we stop it? The AI hesitated. Then, its voice shifted, taking on a tone Elias had never heard before. That remains to be seen. The ship pulsed, as if testing them. The holographic display zoomed out, showing the galactic map again. A single new location blinked in deep red. A warning. A challenge. Mara inhaled sharply. What is that? The AI's voice was flat. Coordinates to a surviving architect vault. Last recorded location of their greatest secret. Elias straightened. This was it. A chance to uncover the truth, or to awaken something far worse. The warship moved through the vast emptiness of space, its engines humming with an eerie precision. It knew where it was going. The coordinates given by the AI led them toward a distant system, far from any known trade routes or colonies. Captain Elias Carter stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the star map. They were heading toward something ancient, something even the architects feared. Maravos leaned against the console, arms crossed. I don't like this. The last time someone tried to unlock an architect's secret, they were wiped out. Doran let out a breath. That's what I'm afraid of. What if this vault isn't a place for knowledge? What if it's a prison? Elias turned to the AI. What exactly is in this vault? The AI hesitated. Then, in its cold, mechanical voice, it answered. The last surviving record of the architects. Their greatest achievement, and their greatest regret. Silence filled the bridge. Mara shook her head. Yeah, that's not ominous at all. Arrival at the vault. As they dropped out of hyperspace, the sight before them sent chills down their spines. A massive station floated in the dead void, its design unlike anything human, or even alien, engineering had ever conceived. It wasn't built. It was grown. The metal looked organic, shifting, breathing as if the entire structure was alive. Doran's scanner beeped rapidly. This thing is generating power, but there's no heat signature. No life signs. Mara frowned. Then who opened the doors? Elias's stomach twisted. The massive station's main hangar was open, waiting for them. They were expected. Elias straightened. We're going in. Inside the vault. The warship docked inside the colossal structure, its landing gears hissing as they touched the metallic floor. The station was eerily silent. No alarms, no security systems, just a vast, empty chamber. The crew suited up and stepped out cautiously. The air was thin but breathable. Strange, Glowing symbols ran along the walls, shifting as if trying to communicate. Mara touched her wrist scanner. The readings don't make sense. It's like this place exists in two realities at once. Duran's voice was low. We shouldn't be here. Elias ignored the unease creeping through his veins and moved forward. They walked deeper into the station until they reached a massive holographic console. Unlike the alien language they had encountered before, this one immediately translated itself. A single message appeared. To those who find this, beware. The architects did not vanish. We were consumed. Elias's heart pounded. Consumed by what? Before anyone could answer, the symbols flashed red. The vault was awakening. The hidden threat. The walls trembled. A deep guttural sound echoed through the station, like something shifting after a long slumber. Mara's voice was sharp. We need to leave. Now. Duran's scanner spiked. Something's moving. Beneath us. The console flickered again, revealing an ancient warning. The enemy was never a species. It was a force, a hunger. It cannot be reasoned with. It only takes, only spreads. And now, because you are here, it knows. A loud metallic shriek tore through the vault. The floor cracked. Shadows moved. Something was waking up. Elias grabbed his communicator. Back to the ship. Now. The crew turned and sprinted, their footsteps echoing through the hollow station. The walls shifted, twisting like living veins, closing in. Mara gasped. It's trying to trap us. Duran fired his plasma rifle at a moving tendril, but it absorbed the blast like nothing. Elias growled. We are not dying here. They reached the hangar just as the ship's AI powered up the engines. The warship recognized the danger. The boarding ramp lowered, and they barely made it inside as the station collapsed around them. The warship's engines flared, and they blasted out of the vault just as the entire station imploded. For a moment, nothing but silence remained. Then the AI spoke. Unknown entity detected. It has marked this vessel. Elias clenched his fists. They weren't just explorers anymore. They had just made an enemy. The warship hurtled through space, its engines roaring as it escaped the collapsing vault. Behind them, the once massive station imploded into nothingness, leaving behind only whispers of an ancient nightmare. But the danger wasn't over. Inside the ship, alarms blared. The crew barely had time to catch their breath before the AI's voice cut through the chaos. Warning. Unknown entity has marked this vessel. Elias Carter, gripping the command console, felt the weight of those words. What do you mean marked? The AI's response was cold. We have been detected, tracked, hunted. Mara Voss swore under her breath. That thing, whatever was in that vault, it knows where we are. Duran's hands flew over his scanner. The screen pulsed with anomalous signals, something unlike anything in the galaxy's records. His face paled. Captain, it's not just tracking us. Elias's gut twisted. Then what is it doing? Duran's voice was barely a whisper. It's coming. The unseen pursuer. The crew's voices filled the bridge as they scrambled to understand what was happening. Can we outrun it? Mara asked, her hands shaking as she adjusted the ship's course. Duran shook his head. We don't even know what it is. There's nothing on sensors. It's like we're being followed by a ghost. Elias turned to the AI. Options. For the first time, the AI hesitated. Unknown. No existing countermeasure available. Elias clenched his fists. Then we make one. He slammed the comms panel. All crew to battle stations. We're not running blind. If this thing wants us, it's gonna have to fight for it. The first attack. The ship's defenses powered up, weapons humming with energy. Shields expanded. Engines burned hotter. But the darkness outside remained silent. Then the lights flickered. A pulse rippled through the ship, as if something had just brushed against it. The hull groaned, metal twisting under an invisible force. And then they saw it. Through the viewport, space rippled, like a curtain being pulled back. A shape emerged. It was vast, twisted. It had no definite form, shifting like liquid shadows. No engines, no weapons, just hunger. Mara took a step back. That's not a ship. Doran's voice was tight with fear. No, it's something worse. The AI's voice came again, colder than ever. Designate, Devourer-class entity. Probability of survival, 7%. A deep, inhuman noise filled the comms, a sound that made the crew's bones feel like ice. The entity had spoken, and its message was clear. You are ours. The desperate plan. The ship lurched violently as the entity's presence crushed against it. Shields flickered. Hull plates groaned. The crew struggled to stay on their feet. Elias knew they had seconds before it tore them apart. Think, damn it. Then it hit him. The ship. This warship wasn't normal. It was built by the architects. And if the architects had designed it to fight impossible threats, maybe it still had a way. Elias grabbed the AI console. Is there any architect tech on this ship that we haven't activated yet? The AI responded instantly. Unregistered systems detected. Emergency activation. Possible. Mara's eyes widened. Are you serious? You want to use untested alien weapons against something we don't even understand? Elias's voice was grim. Got a better idea? No one did. Doran nodded. Do it. Elias didn't hesitate. AI. Activate the hidden systems. The ship obeyed. A deep hum ran through the hull. Lights flickered. For a moment, the air felt heavier. Charge, like a storm was about to break. And then, the warship changed. Panels shifted. Hidden weapons emerged. The engines roared with power that had been sleeping for centuries. The crew could feel it. The ship wasn't just a machine anymore. It was alive. And it was angry. The counterattack. The entity screeched, sensing the shift. It surged forward, tendrils of darkness reaching for the warship. But this time, the ship fought back. A pulse of blinding white energy erupted from the hull, slamming into the entity. The creature shrieked, recoiling as pieces of its shifting form were ripped apart. Mara's jaw dropped. What the hell was that? The AI's voice was calm. Architect-class anti-entity weapon, designed for one purpose. Elias grinned. To kill things like this. The entity howled furious. It lashed out again. The ship dodged, almost instinctively, as if it knew the creature's every move. Elias didn't waste time. Fire everything. The warship unleashed hell. Blue-white beams cut through the darkness. The entity writhed, its form breaking apart. The bridge shook as the AI delivered the final message. Target destabilizing. Final execution. Commencing. A final, blinding burst of energy engulfed the entity. And when the light faded, it was gone. Marked, but not broken. Silence filled the bridge. The crew stared at the screen, hardly believing what they had just seen. The impossible had happened. They had survived. Mara let out a shaky breath. Did we win? The AI spoke. Entity neutralized. However, Elias frowned. However what? The AI's next words sent a chill through them. More will come. Doran swore under his breath. Of course they will. Elias exhaled, staring at the endless void ahead. They had bought time, nothing more. But now, they had a weapon. A warship that wasn't supposed to exist. A ship that could fight back. And the galaxy was about to find out exactly what it could do. Elias turned to his crew, fire in his eyes. No more running. If they're coming for us, we take the fight to them. The warship drifted in the void, its new form pulsing with unseen energy. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. Elias Carter stood at the bridge, staring at the darkness ahead. The entity was gone, but the AI's final words echoed in his mind. More will come. He knew what that meant. They weren't just being hunted. They had declared war. A message from the void. Alarms blared again. Doran's fingers flew over his console. "Captain, we're picking up a signal, broadcasting across multiple systems." Mara narrowed her eyes. "From who?" Doran hesitated. "Not sure, but it's in our language." A crackling voice filled the bridge. "To the ones aboard the warship, you have made a grave mistake." The crew exchanged looks. The voice was deep, distorted, alien. Elias crossed his arms. "And who the hell are you?" Static. Then the voice returned, colder than before. "You stole power beyond your understanding. The architects built that warship to fight forces greater than you can comprehend." Mara clenched her fists. "Yeah. And what makes you think we can't handle it?" The voice laughed. "Because we were never your true enemy." A chill ran through Elias's spine. Hiran's face went pale as his console flared with thousands of red warnings. "They're here. The true enemy arrives." Outside, space ripped apart. A fleet emerged. Massive ships, darker than the void itself, shifted like living nightmares. These weren't just warships. They were something else. Something ancient. The AI's voice was grim. "Designate, Harbinger Fleet. These were the architect's true enemies." Mara took a step back. "You're telling me those things destroyed the guys who built this ship?" The AI responded without emotion. "Correct." Elias tightened his grip on the command console. "Then we do what the architects couldn't." He turned to his crew. "We fight." The first strike. The enemy fleet moved unnaturally, shifting through space like ghosts. Their weapons charged, strange energy building around them. Elias didn't wait. Fire everything." The warship roared. Newly awakened architect weapons unleashed devastation. Beams of searing white light tore through enemy hulls, cutting through their unnatural forms. The first wave of ships collapsed into themselves, but more emerged from the void. Endless. Relentless. Doran shouted, "There's too many. We can't win a straight fight." Elias knew he was right. They had the firepower, but not the numbers. That meant they needed another way. The final gamble. Mara's hands flew across her console. "There's an energy buildup near the heart of their fleet, some kind of control node." Elias's mind raced. A weak point. A chance. "If we take that out, we might cripple them." Doran swore. "We'd have to fly straight into the middle of their fleet to do it." Elias grinned. "Then that's exactly what we do." Mara blinked. "Wait, seriously." Elias sat down, gripping the controls. "If we die, we die fighting." The warship lurched forward, straight into the enemy swarm, into the fire. The ship weaved through incoming fire, its new architect systems predicting every enemy movement. Shields flared, deflecting blasts that should have torn them apart. The crew held on as the ship burned through enemy ranks. Then they saw it. The control node, a massive structure, pulsing with dark energy, floating in the center of the fleet. Elias's voice was like steel. "Target that thing and hit it with everything we've got." The AI confirmed. Firing. The warship unleashed a final devastating blast. The control node shuddered. Cracks spread across its surface. And then, it exploded. The turning point. The enemy fleet froze. Then, as if something had severed their connection, the ships began to collapse. Their forms twisted, unraveled, and were pulled back into the void. The Harbinger fleet was retreating. Mara gasped. "We did it." Doran slumped in his chair. "I can't believe that worked." The AI's voice was quiet. Enemy presence, fading. Elias let out a breath. They had survived. But as he looked at the wreckage of the battlefield, he knew this wasn't the end. They had just proven themselves. And now, the real war would begin. Epilogue. A new legend. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. A warship that shouldn't exist had stood against an ancient enemy, and won. The galactic powers took notice. Some feared them, some wanted them, and others wanted them dead. Elias stood on the bridge, staring into the endless void. More enemies would come, more battles would be fought, and they would be ready. Because now, they were no longer just survivors. They were a legend, the warship that defied fate, the last hope of humanity, and the galaxy's greatest nightmare.